Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second season of Voice Out, Speak Up to Reach Out. Well, I'm so happy to share this day with you all for joining my show with my incredible speaker, who I am going to introduce to you all shortly. Well, for those who don't know me, I am Rosie Bonita Fernandez, the founder of Being Beautiful. Being Beautiful is about self acceptance, and Voice Out is a platform where you express to inspire. So now it is time for me to introduce my speaker for the second episode, for the third episode of Voice Out, the second season. Well, she is Vilma Pinto. So, Vilma, welcome to Voice Out.
Hi, Rosie. Thank you, first of all, to have me here. It's a pleasure being on such a forum. It's my first time, so I might sound a bit nervous. So please, I think, excuse me on that. Thank you so much again for inviting me over.
Thank you so much for accepting and being a part of Voice Out because it really means a lot. Let me tell you a little bit about Vilma. Well, I know Vilma from the same place. I mean, we both were in the same place in Mumbai, and we both know each other from Naigaon. I don't know her much personally, but yes, what I have heard about her is that, or what I know a little bit about her and her as well, that she's a very strong woman for what she has gone through, and she's going to talk about grief. We all have our own stories to tell, and Vilma is here to share her own story of grief and resilience. Right from her childhood to her adulthood, how she overcame every obstacle in her life with grace and beauty. And also, she's a certified integrated, I think, counselor, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Also, today, the show is connected to the I think the fourth color of the the third color of the rainbow, which is yellow, and it is all about self love. So today the episode and what we're going to talk is also about self love. So Vilma, once again, welcome to Voice Out. Why do you think it is important for people to speak up, express to inspire, or share their stories?
Um, well, I think one always has a choice, and it's very important to make the right one at most times. So either you stay where you are, or you evolve. So when you ask me why Voice Out, I would choose to voice out because I don't want to stay in the same place. I don't want to keep getting comfortable in the space that I have and start complaining about things around me. Whereas actually, I tell people there needs to be a change. People around me need to change. I need you to change. I need the situation to change. I need things in the world to change. But how does that change come? The change comes only when you say it, right? When you speak, when you get that change within yourself. So, giving, we actually need to give it a thought. Do we actually think that can we change? Can I change? And that's when it is important for us to voice out. So we have these challenges, these routines, these storms, and so on, and so many things in our everyday life. And at times we just sit and say, okay, this is enough, and I don't want to go on with it anymore. But do we actually say it to anyone other than ourselves? So when you voice out is when you actually take the first step of overcoming it. And that's why I feel it's important to voice out. Agreeing to think to yourself. And why do you disrespect your own boundaries? We don't want to leave those comfort zones because we want to keep the peace. I mean, you're complaining and all that shit, but when will you actually use your voice to and spend the energy in the right manner rather than just silently sulking over it? That's what it is about voicing out. It is important to keep the peace and voice it out in the right manner. I think that will make
Yes, very rightly said. I think
the change.
sorry, I think our voice is overlapping. Okay, can you hear me, Wilma?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Well, I think, yes, very rightly said, because the only reason why I chose to initiate this platform is because, like I said in your introduction, we all have our own stories. And it is very important to, speak up, because we don't know sometimes who we are inspiring, who we are talking, who is looking at you and getting inspired. In fact, we don't need an idol, or we don't need somebody famous to get inspiration from. We get inspiration from our everyday people. You don't know, sometimes I get inspired by my own friends, whether I have to dress up, or whether I have to think in a particular way, and you look at somebody and you get inspired. I think my whole idea of this platform is to know that, there are stories, there are real stories, and there are people who are surviving, there are people who have not given up, and there are people who are still living and fighting their life, whatever life basically throws them at, which is why I requested you when the first season was on itself, that when I seen that you posted about your counseling, so I said, okay, I mean, whatever I little bit I knew about you, I thought I should be approaching you. And then I'm so grateful to you that you actually agreed to do this. So you also know about being beautiful. You've been following my page, you've been following my blogs and whatever I've been posting. So what is the most beautiful thing in your life, or what is beautiful according to you?
Um, well, it's your life itself is beautiful, firstly. Fitting in your own skin, as in you don't need to have someone's approval, you don't need to pretend, you need to be yourself. That's the most beautiful thing about your existence in this world. That's the most beautiful part for me in this world. I mean, you're being able to breathe easy, you being at peace with yourself, which invariably reflects outside of you. That's the most beautiful feeling for me in this world. So it just does not happen. I mean, everything at some point when you're going through a situation in your life might seem dull, it might seem so ugly, and you just think everything's so painful. But what we need to look through is the beauty of life. I mean, if you've been put into a situation, um, the most beautiful part of it is there is an underlying strength in you that you can overcome it.
Yeah.
And the day you realize that strength within yourself is the day you know your life is beautiful. You know everything about your life, and everything in your life is beautiful. So that's the most beautiful thing, being in your own skin without any pretense.
Very well said. I think many people need to know this, because sometimes we are not, sometimes actually we are always complaining, that we don't have, either we don't have something, mentally, or we don't have something physically. We are always focusing on satisfying the other person, or satisfying the society, or fitting in the crowd. I don't think it's important, or it is even necessary to fit in the crowd. You just need to stand out. And if you're different, you're not a bad person, you're not somebody who is not a normal. It's fine, it's okay not to be normal, it's okay to be crazy, it's okay to be wild, I think. Because some many people tell me, in fact, you're so weird. And I respond back like, don't you think that is nice? Because I don't want to be normal, because normal is so mundane. So which is why I think that like what you said about beautiful. Now I like to ask people what is their definition of beautiful, is just to understand what, because everybody's definition of beautiful is going to be different. It is not going to be same. Some people could focus on the outer experience, some people will focus on the inner beauty, or there are different definitions. But I really like what you said, because I think I can resonate with that as well. And that is something what my my platform being beautiful is also about. So since we spoke about self-love from the beginning, and I think everybody has very different ideas of self-love. People would want to buy an expensive gift, would want to have coffee, or I don't know what. There are so many things. Would want to have like a nice hot shower. So what is your idea of self-love?
Self-love. Self-love, yeah, has various definitions. Um, this question was also asked to me when I was doing my counseling course. Now, first of all, I let me tell you, since we've been speaking about this counseling thing, the reason I did my counseling course was for myself. What I realized was, and what we were always being told was, a good counselor is the one who lives his life, in the right manner. And I cannot counsel someone if I am not able to live my life the right way. I'm not sure what is right and wrong, but yeah, if I am able to sustain and withhold my life together in the most tough times, is when I know that I will be able to set that as an example for someone else.
Yes.
Now, when we speak of self-love, what we forget is the chances and the opportunities we get every day. That's what we keep forgetting every day. We have so much to complain about, but and it all comes to you. Everything around you that you're complaining about is you. So where do I make the difference is when I have that high regard for myself, that I know that what's most important to me right now or every day is to take care of myself, to take care of my well-being, to take care of my happiness. Because like I told earlier, what I have within me reflects outside. And that's exactly the response that you get from the other side as well. So self-love means taking care of your own needs. First of all, putting yourself first, and then taking care of the others. So it's not about sacrificing yourself for people around you. I mean, why would you want to do that? It's like cutting yourself into half and then you're crying over the fact that it's painful. You cut your own finger and you cry that, oh, it's painful. But if I'm not going to take care of that wound, it's going to keep festering and it's going to keep hurting me even more, right? So stop pleasing others. Self-love is about taking care of yourself first, figuring out what you as an individual require, what is more important to you, what is the most important thing to keep your mental health. And that for me is self-love. High regard for your own self, putting yourself first, and then the others.
Well, I mean, I got a little emotion when you said that because I, was thinking about obviously how I do that as well. I think some of them also call it selfish. I don't call it. If you have to take care of yourself and placing yourself is not at all selfish. I think people need to hear this. And I keep telling everybody that I know that you have to prioritize yourself. The best investment that you will do is just yourself. And there is no loss, and it's only going to be profit there. And keep investing in yourself, and when you see yourself grow, you yourself are going to get motivated, and you will want to push yourself more. You want to push yourself more harder, because you will want the best out of whatever you have been investing in yourself. And
True.
uh, I also notice that people uh, they they also misuse the concept of self-love. It is, there are people which would do something to hurt you, and they will call that self-love. Self-love is not hurting someone else and taking care of yourself. Okay, you also have to know that by hurting the opposite person and taking care of your mental health is not self-love. That person also needs to be okay. You can set your boundaries. There is a way to place things, because I have read, since I'm also into coaching, and what you said as a counselor, in every coaching in whatever I have studied till now, in every session, they have told us that, you need to coach yourself first. You need to be that person. Then people can, look up to you, or they will come to you for advice. So whatever I
Right.
apply to my clients, or whatever I've been applying to the people that I am coaching, I apply that in my life first. Because if I cannot practice it, I cannot do it, then I don't think I can advise somebody else to do it. So which is very important. So I completely agree to what you said. While we were chatting earlier, and when you were sending me your content, you spoke about your childhood trauma. You sent me a poetry which is really, really, like, I think 2 pages. And when I was reading it, initially when I read it, I just went glanced to it and I read it later. But I was really touched. I mean, I don't know. I mean, would you like to throw some light on that? Because that poetry, I don't know if you would like to read something from that, or say something about it. But I really wanted to say something about that.
If you want me to, I can read it, but I'm not sure if it's going to take much time, and if it's okay with everyone, I think I can.
I think,
Um,
yeah, I think you can. You have a lot of time, and the people
okay.
who are joining today are all your supporters, I believe.
Okay, great. So let me just pick it out. I think it read as "She got bite marks," right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll just look for it, but I think I can come back to it.
Yeah.
While I'm looking for it, maybe we can proceed. But there's one thing that I want to say. See, when we speak about, not hurting others in the process, what we fail to forget is also how much are we letting others hurt us, right? I mean, we all love people that we have in our lives, and we always put ourselves first. I mean, sorry, put them first while taking care of their needs. You know, um, I don't know. I mean, I agree to disagree at this, that dependencies sometimes are the biggest disappointments. So when we are dependent, when you said that I get inspired by some people when I have to get dressed well, do we really have to get inspired by someone else to get ourselves, to groom ourselves, or to get up every morning and go to work? No, I think then we aren't really doing things for ourselves. We need to do something for us. For me, there were times when I just didn't want to, you know, I don't know what I was. I was like, sometimes I was like shit. And I had this crazy looking face. I just looked so ugly. I just looked at myself every day, and there were certain pictures I would just go back to and say, is this the same Vilma who's living her life? There were certain instances in my life where I just didn't want to live anymore. I just wanted to give up. And I just wanted to say, okay, now this is it. I don't want to go on anymore, because people are not supportive of me. People are not approving, aren't approving of what I do. They have so many opinions about my life. And I just came to realize someday that all of that didn't matter, because what was I doing looking for approvals from people? Why should I look for approvals? Why should I have someone to look up to just get up and say, this is me and I need to take care of myself? Why should someone else, why should I give my life's control into someone else's hand and tell them how I am supposed to live my life? I mean, is that really important? So I think dependencies, when I say dependencies, it's the relationship we are in with our spouse, or with the person we are living with, or it's whether it's our mother, it's a father, it's a brother, whoever it is, depending on them entirely and making anyone tell you how you should live is the greatest disappointment, because you are not living for yourself. You're living for someone else. You're living your life because someone else has asked you to. and someone else is directing you to. So I think that's what needs to stop first of all. So yeah, coming to that, she got bite marks. This is how it goes. The title says she got bite marks. So it starts like this. I'm going to tell you a story starting once upon a time. It's about this girl named Vilma. Her life summed up in few lines. Please hear her voice and wonder as she brushes past every word. She prayed for strength for her arms to hold the truth about her world. There are wounds that show on her body, but much deeper than you see. They hurt much more than anything that bleeds. Her mama wasn't perfect. Her dad didn't have her back. She didn't know who to turn to, so telling them kept them secretly packed in her sack. It is amazing how she faked her smile, but failed to hide her tears. Her life was being stamped bit by bit with a little love and mostly fears, adapting adversity and developing grit. Childhood is about having role models we want to look up to. Her brain blocked most of her memories she came across as she grew. Shame, embarrassment, fear, or abuse untangling her roots. From the day she was born, she was told what to do. You can be anything you want as long as you aren't you. She killed that inner child in her, cause dreaming was for fools. She just walked the straight line, trying not to break the rules. Her father broke her heart before any boy could. Trust didn't come easy, as no one understood. Growing up soon was mandatory to protect and stay strong. She let her free child die within. She had to be a mother to her mom. Every next level of her life demanded something new. Her heart would fix itself, that she always knew. When she was upset, she wrote thoughts as notes in words that came out of her hands, so it wouldn't come out of her throat. She met a young and charming man between her hopes so bleak, who lent his ear to all she said, the love her heart would seek. The most beautiful thing, the first time you kiss and touch until you grow old together. No relationship is all sunshine, they said. Just like life, love ain't fair. She listened to them, smiled and nodded. She knew they didn't care. If fairy tales are to be believed, trust me, they are more than true. Not all of them have a happy ending, like in the books she read she knew. Yet not letting that little spark die in the bond, she thought she could make things right. She tried to rub stones together, and there came a ray of light. She called this little one Reese. Her heart, he filled her heart with love anew. Awe and amazement in his eyes, it sparkled. It helped her see her life through. Then came crashing waves at her empty beach. Two lovers fell apart. Her first love went missing at the sea. The two lost rhythm of their heart. For years, she looked at the empty ocean and thought that he'd return, burn. She would cry herself to sleep, thinking why things went so wrong. Her little one touched her cheek, said, "Mama, life must go on." He chose the sweetest words to say from getting her heart to break. There is nothing worse than ruining yourself, and he is not even worth the wait. I know you feel like giving up, but we will find a way. God is silently watching us praying. He will guide us night and day. She had created her heartbreaks for herself through her own expectations. Soon to have understood, her thoughts and actions were a result of her own limitations. She saw the difference between giving up and enough was enough, with a promise to look above and beyond, even though times were tough. She was the type of person who held on to things too tight, unable to release her grip when it no longer felt right. People always come and go, the right ones always stay. Nothing is worth stressing over. What's meant to be, it will be, and it will find its way. She struggled to see through her cracks, but found a brand new start. Heaven and hell, and a gorgeous mess she was when she reached heart to heart. Her ego states were brought to light, turning the red ones blue. She chooses to heal every single day, promptly choosing the right scripts too, letting her dominant drivers take a backseat. Her hungers now to breathe in life a sense of positivity, letting her inner child free sometimes while being firm too, reminding herself from time to time, I am okay, you're too. She won't be fooled by people's drama or the games people play. Sometimes you have to be done, not mad. It's okay to not be okay. Don't chase around, just be yourself. Just learn the rules and play. Because we are all on the path of the life position. I am okay, you're okay. Now, life can be sunshine on peaceful days or the raindrops that fall as tears from her eyes. The sun always shines through the darkest clouds. Always look on the bright side. Well, that's about it.
Thank you so much for leaving your. I just wanted you to say it because when you sent it to me, I didn't wanted to tell you earlier because then you would be all prepared. But I love the way you had that smile on your face, and I mean, it shows when you heal from your wounds, you do not cry when you're speaking about the old
Yes.
wounds, and that is what I loved about the entire recitation of your poem. It was really, really beautiful. Thank you so much, Vilma, for saying that.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me say it here. I'm so glad.
Okay, so you said that you wanted to speak about grief. What I know, what is grief? It is also another form of love, because grief is something where love, whenever love is there and it doesn't have any place to go, I think it converts into grief. This is what I believe. This is my definition of that. So, what is your definition of grief?
Um, Grief for me is basically our response to loss. Now, it could be most of the times it's loss of someone close, it's loss of someone who may have died. It's a loss of it could be a pet. We can grieve over anything. Grief not necessarily means losing your love. Grief not necessarily means losing someone from a physical life. Grief could be over anything, absolutely, from losing, basically it's loss of anything, a relationship, anything. So when you have built this certain close or strong bond with something, it could be something materialistic, it could be some person, or it could be a pet, you grieve when that thing or that person is not with you anymore. It could, grief can also be, some people can grieve over some things for very, very long time. So it's all subjective to situations in person and person to person. So for me, grief is not only the loss of someone or something that has died and gone, but it can be associated to this feeling of being utterly sad. It's like someone's just sucked out some life out of you and you're feeling so hopeless and you're grieving over it. Sometimes grieving itself is hopeless, but grieving is important. It brings these overwhelming feelings in you. You feel like you completely act crack. You don't know what state of mind you are in. You're in a state of shock. There are guilt feelings, there are, I don't know, whatever kind of feelings that comes, and it's so difficult to express that, and that is grief. That's where I feel something that you just takes out your life and you are just feeling so sad about it. That's grief for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, how did you deal with it? As in, you have, like you said in your poetry, I mean, most of your people who know you have logged in, they know that you've lost your husband, and it was It was all over the news. You yourself came in the news, and it was a shock. In fact, I am much younger to you from the colony that I am, and you all were one of the hottest couples actually over there. And when we got the news, I obviously we all were sad because I didn't know Russell that much, but yes, uh, we knew him a little bit. How did you manage to? I mean, obviously, it is definitely not easy, but how did you manage that part of your grief?
To give a brief about this, yeah, Russell, I was married to Russell for about from 2005 to 2011 when this happened. Um, I was dating him 10 years before that. So Russell and me were like school time lovers. So if you can call that.
Yeah.
Well, see, at some point in our marriage, we were drifting apart. Russell went on to working on the ship, and I think, yeah, things weren't working that great. And somehow the attachment was becoming a detachment. The conversations were becoming less. But yes, of course, I couldn't deny the fact that he was the father to my child. We were in a married institution and so many things. So I think it took me a long time, a long time to overcome this grief, the grief of losing him. And it was not just about losing him and, he's gone. This grief lasted because he was lost at sea. And he was lost at sea for 3 years. So 3 years was a crazy time for me, because I would have probably overcome it, but people weren't letting me, everybody wanted to give me an opinion in my life.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to know what was happening with him. And there were so many rumors about him coming back and found somewhere. And,
Yeah.
but for me, it was the love part was not there anymore in the relationship, to be honest. But the fact that, I mean, I can't deny the fact that he was my husband.
Vilma, I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but that takes extreme strength to say that when you're in a marriage, and when when that I mean I mean, kudos to you, because I don't think anybody can actually say that. I mean, thank you so much for saying that. You're really strong.
Thank you. But yeah, honesty is the best policy, they say, right? So why lie to yourself, or why lie to anybody else? Let the whole world know.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are some relationships only you and the other person knows about. You don't want to tell it to the whole world. I think we have so many people around us who have lost the love factor in their marriages, but they're still together because of peer pressure.
Yeah.
You just, and that's an utter lie. I feel that's an utter lie people tell themselves. So while I don't want to opine on somebody else's life, I'm talking about mine right now. So coming to my life and what it was at that point was a crazy time. I mean, I can't even tell you. So when this whole accident thing happened and the news came up, and there was so much going on in the media, and we were all there. I mean, my son, my Russell's family, me, my Reese, we were all in the newspapers. There was a constant going on of the news about him being found and what's happening and the updates. It was international news, right? So the fact that caused me a lot of trauma. It was not just Russell. I mean, he was not there and the authorities were doing what their duty or responsibility was. While I don't want to comment on that, the fact that my relationship for me with my son was the most important thing at that point, because for him it was only me, and for me it was only him. And this was causing him and me a lot of trauma. And I just did not say anything. So what happened eventually is I started, that could be one, I mean, you could call that one part of grief. So I was having sleepless nights. I mean, I can't even tell you. Sleepless means I would stay up all day and all night without actually winking. And I'm honest about it. I had to go on antidepressant pills to keep my head calm. And the only thing was a silent cry, and there was nobody to hear me, right? So everyone was so focused on the news, but nobody was focused on the fact that there are people who are right now there who are going through this, and there's so much happening in our heads. And every time I looked around, it was only Russell. It was only news about him. It was only news about what's happening. And I used to lose my temper. So basically, these emotions within me were going all topsy-turvy. I was getting angry at the slightest thing. I couldn't take care of my boy because people were asking me questions, and I know he was, Reese couldn't respond to me in the way an adult would. So I would bring out all the frustration on him, and I have complained and cried, but that is all to myself. And I've gone completely crazy at that point, completely crazy. So in the bargain, I think I have done the most stupidest things. I have tried. I just wanted to give up, and I just wanted to end myself. But there was this one time, very, very clearly, very vividly, I remember, is I was sitting on the couch looking at the news, and there were tears in my eyes, and it rolled down my cheek. And my boy came, Reese came to me, and he touched and he wiped it. And he said, "Mama, please don't cry." He just said that. He was only about a little more than 3 years, I think. And that was it. That was a day when I decided that this has to stop. Wilma has to come back. She cannot keep drowning herself into something that's not required. Her son needs her most, and that is the focus of her life. So I think it took me, yes, of course. I mean, I may have stopped crying, but the grief didn't leave me. I was crying. I mean, lot of things that I had to overcome within myself. This anger, this crazy people, and how I'm supposed to live my life, and whether I should. But I just lost a lot of myself while I was overcoming in this process. And then when I overcame it, I got myself back. And that's why you see me the way I am today. I am strong, yes. And I had that strength, I think, all along, but I just failed to realize that.
Yes. Yes.
So I think in my bio, I told you my inspiration is my boy.
Yes.
Yes, he is my strongest point of overcoming a lot of things.
Well, I think we somewhere down the line in our life, we hit rock bottom, and I think all of us do. We reach a point in our life where we say, like, that's it, enough. I can't go lower than this. I have to pick myself. I have to stand. Like my first speaker, Meenakshi, also is a single mother. So she also found her inspiration, her motivation in her son, and like how you said as well, many people find their motivation, inspiration in different things, and we only find it's always there within us, like you said, it's always there within us. We just don't know it when that is the only thing left with us.
Yes.
And you don't have to go through something traumatic. You don't have to go through something, at least now, because mental health is being spoken so widely about. It is my favorite topic. I love speaking about this with my friends as well. Sometimes they get bored because they cannot, relate. They tell me I'm always coaching, because whenever I'm talking, I'm always, they'll be like, "Tera gyan bas kar." So it is like that. But I think
Yeah.
it is so important to speak about things which have not been spoken all this while, only because there are so many suicidal rates that are going up. People are committing suicide, especially men. I love focusing the mental health part on men as well, because not many men speak their mind out. Like one speaker in my previous season killed the entire season because he was the best speaker. I mean, no offense against the other speakers, they were all fantastic, but his episode had so many views and so many comments, which was so good. Like a man coming and speaking about his suicidal journey was very empowering. And like you said, that you've been crying. I think crying is one of the most empowering thing a person can do. We should never tell anybody do not cry. If somebody wants to
Yeah.
cry, if they're feeling low, I will never tell somebody don't cry. I'll be like, let it out, it's fine, cry. Usually, if you cry, people will like, what, you're crying like a child, why are you crying like a woman, especially to men. And even to the small boys, we should never tell
Yeah.
who are growing, stop being a girl, don't cry like a girl, don't be a sissy, and whatever those words, sorry for the language though. But I think we should stop saying that, because crying is a birthright to every human being, whether it is a man or a woman. And when you cry, you feel so empowered. You feel that you're releasing you're releasing all your stress. So I don't think there's anything wrong in crying. When you said that how much you've been crying, you were awake, I could resonate with everything, is because I personally also have gone through a little bit of, not obviously not everything what you have gone through, but yes, I did. And it takes a lot of courage to say the things that you're saying right now, because not many people reach to that acceptance phase, and you have already passed that acceptance phase where you have come here and you're speaking about that as well. So now we know that this episode is about resilience. So what is your definition, or what would you like to say about that?
Resilience is all what I spoke up to now. I think it's a very deep rooted thing. Resilience is all about a breakthrough, breakthrough out of any situation that you've been put through, you've had to deal with. It's about the power that tells you keep going. It's about the power to stand tall after being fallen 1,000 times. It's about to never stop trying. It's um, it's tough. Being resilient is very tough. Not everybody can, but it's about the ability to recover from absolutely anything. That's what resilient is, and that's why when I pondered over what I was going to talk, and when you asked me to choose a title for my talk, I just thought that if I have been put through situations right through from childhood till my adulthood, and even today when there are certain things that I have to deal with, I am able to recover. And that's what being resilient is. Uh, that's what my definition to that is.
Yes. I think mental health is somewhere there within all of us, like even depression is, I have been a victim of, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but I used to be in depression myself. And I think that still is going to be there. I have just learned, or people just need to learn how to deal with it. Like COVID, it's not going anywhere soon. We are just learning
Yeah.
to live with it. We have learned how to take measures or steps, or how to deal with. Initially, when it hit us, nobody knew and everybody started panicking. But now, if you see, everybody is all, they have let loose. They are taking precautions. Likewise, mental health, depression, stress, anxiety, these things are always going to stay with us. And however we are dealing with it, how we are responding to life is what is important. And life has thrown
True.
so many things to you. I mean, whatever I have known you, whatever you have shared with me before this episode, from your childhood to your adulthood, like rightly said, how did you manage to stay so strong?
See, like I told you, it took me a long time to overcome grief. And I have had a really a not so rosy, not so beautiful childhood. When I was growing up, or rather when I was a child, my mom was an alcoholic. My dad used to be abroad most of the times. I have an older brother who's about 8 years older to me.
Mhm.
Of course, he did whatever it took to take care of me, and I think um, he's a very strong. He's somebody I get inspired by, and he lives his life that way. So his patience, I don't have it. I can bring the whole house down if I'm upset. I can scream my guts out and make my neighbors know that they better not come and knock my door for any reason at that point. So that's how impatient I am. But a lot of patience I have learned from my brother. Um, yeah. So right from childhood, when my mom was an alcoholic, there used to be times when she used to be addicted to alcohol for couple of months, 3 months, and it used to take a lot of efforts to bring her out of the addiction. So she needed to be isolated, and at that point she used to have her bouts of wanting more alcohol, and that's kind of an addiction. So it could be it's the same like how somebody is a drug addict or something, things like that. So there used to be time when we didn't have any food to eat, and we had to ask our neighbors to at least give us some food. So I mean, people used to say, "Arey, this girl, what is she? She is just begging." I mean, people didn't really know what that begging was for. So there were comments and things passed on us like we were some kind of a doormat, and people could walk over us and say anything to us. So see, I mean, I am somebody who has faced it as a child. My brother would somehow be at college or school, and I think he has probably had his own share of listening to people, but somehow he would have got over it, or has not, I don't know. But right from a very young age, have had to take a lot of responsibilities and be an adult, or rather grow up before time. So there have been times when I've had to hear I've been taken advantage of by boys, because I wouldn't want to praise myself, but yes, I was one of the prettiest when I was younger. And
Was still the prettiest, by the way.
so people, there are some who are behind a mask. There are people who are very sweet to you, and they've stabbed you, I don't know how, from every possible angle, and you've come to believe in them so much that everything they tell you, you want to believe. And eventually, when the time comes when they have to part ways, it's like a big boulder being thrown at you, and you are so lost. You are it's like a concussion. You just don't want to, you just don't know where you are, what state of mind. So coming from that kind of a childhood, I've already dealt, or rather been in a trauma to, with having a mom like that, and with my dad being away, there's no parental guidance. So just my brother and me have had to manage a lot of things. And then coming, so dealing, I didn't even know that can cause trauma until a certain time. Then I came to being a teenager, moved places from Chembur in Bombay, and I've come to Naigaon. Naigaon is a completely different place with new people, but somehow sometimes my mom used to be addicted to alcohol again at that point, and we had to deal with the people around and the neighbors telling you. And I think I've told you absolutely good things about how Naigaon can uplift somebody, right? So just being sarcastic here, I don't know what to say. But yeah, Naigaon has given me their own share of boulders and stones, and has I don't know what what to say about Naigaon, but
I know.
anyway.
I mean, I'm from Naigaon too, so yeah, I know that.
Yeah. So each something that came to you, each opinion that came to you from people came to me not very nicely, but it came to me as stones. So even the truth sometimes, if there was somebody genuinely trying to help you, I would always feel, I think this person is just trying to bluff me. And trust for me became less and less. I started to detest people. I started to hate something that they told me. Um, Overcoming those stones, I think I read a meme few days ago. Save all the stones that people throw at you, because that's what helps you to build the castle. So I think I kept those stones with me, and today I'm very happy in the place that I am, not just in life, but in the house that I live in. So I think those stones have really helped me build myself. So all the complaining, the crying, the temper, and being hurt and being pained over in my childhood, in my adulthood, and then coming to my married life and being a mother, single, however it was, it's just helped me to build myself over and over again, every now and then. And I'm telling you, it's been hell. It's been hell overcoming all of this, but it's been the best part of my journey to where I am today. It's just helped me build myself stronger.
Great. Well, what I love absolutely about you right now on this episode is that you're always smiling. You know, you always have a smile about whatever you're speaking, whether it's about grief or whether it was about your, your journey. And that takes a lot of courage to smile when you're speaking about your wounds, because that actually shows that you have been healed from, what you have gone through. Which I also asked you, what is it that you don't want me to ask you on the show, because I have to take care of what my speaker doesn't want to be asked, because some people are not comfortable asking few intimate questions.
Yeah.
And you said, I'm fine, you ask me anything and I will I'll try my best to answer, which so far I don't think anybody has actually told me, because there are people who have their restrictions, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. But this is so beautiful for you to smile throughout the show and be such a wonderful guest. So we are going to wrap up today's episode. So before we go, Wilma, is there anything in your mind, heart, that you want to tell anybody? Any advice or anything?
Well, I have something to say, yes. There's one quote that I would like to quote Paulo Coelho, if you've read him. I think I follow him and I have read most of his books.
I read.
So there's something that he says, that when we least expect it, life sets us a challenge to test our courage and willingness to change. At such a moment, there is no point in pretending that nothing has happened, or in saying that we are not ready yet. The challenge will not wait. Life does not look back. A week is more than enough time for us to decide whether or not to accept our destiny. So this is the quote I really love. So there are moments when troubles enter our lives and we can do nothing about it to avoid them. And then we should understand that they are there for a reason. So the only way to overcome them is to understand why they are there. So along the way, by the way we live, I mean, we should not live our lives to inspire somebody, but the way we live must inspire someone else looking at us to live their lives. So absolutely, I think we've, with our experiences, with the way we can voice out our tough times, we heal numerous people. We heal numerous boat holes by meeting people and talking to them. And we don't even realize how many lives we can save. So I just want to say, make a difference, be the best you. Don't live to inspire. Live a life in such a way that people get inspired by you just being you. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, Wilma. Now, before we end for tonight, we have a couple of people. I think your brother is also logged in. I see his name.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, that's Vikram over there, what I can see. If anybody wants to ask something to Wilma, say something to her or to me, anything, or you can switch on your cameras, you can switch on your, you can unmute yourself and say something. Any questions for her? Anybody? That's Ansela.
Hi there. I just want to say thank you very much. What a huge story and great wise words. So thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Ansela.
sharing.
Thank you.
Ansela,
And well done for all that, for overcoming.
thank you.
Well
And
done for overcoming.
thank
Well
you.
done for overcoming your hurdles, and
Thank
that's
you.
great.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much.
Okay, we have Loretta D'Souza.
Hi, Vilma. Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Loretta. Nice to see you here.
Yeah. Vilma, when you was reading out that poetry,
Yeah.
I just went back to Chembur.
Okay. She's my childhood friend, by the way, Bonita.
Hi, Loretta.
Yeah, hi. So I could walk that path with you, Vilma. So
I'm sure.
I just went back 35 years. The games we played, the talks we had,
Yeah,
the
I know.
chitchamni we shared, our ups and downs. So glad to see and to see that no, we all are happy now, at least somewhere.
Yes. True.
So
True.
nice to hear you.
Thank you so much for joining in. Thanks. Nice to
Yeah,
see you.
yeah, same here. Same.
Thank you, Loretta. Is there anybody else who would like to say anything to Vilma? Okay, so we end for tonight. Thank you so much, Vilma, and thank you for everybody joining again. Please do take care of yourself. Please wear a mask. Stay safe and stay beautiful. I'm going to be uploading this episode on YouTube very soon. If people who have missed it can watch it later. Thank you so much, Vilma, and good night and take care, everyone.
Thanks so much. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Bye-bye.